What is going on, everyone? Mr. Rage22 coming at you guys with a brand new video, and this is going to be a review, my second review. um yeah, I haven't made a review for a game for a long time. Layers of Fear was my recent one, currently sitting at 8 views right now. This is going to be another review for the sequel of Layers of Fear. I decided to put it in order. I played and reviewed the first one. I just now finished the second one, and I have played this game before, um like in the past, and I honestly felt kind of the same way I do about it now, except now I'm actually telling you guys about it and also reviewing the game. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. Now, Layers of Fear 2 is a much, and I mean a much different game than the first one. The first game was a complete walking simulator, and as I said in my review for Layers of Fear, the game was like mostly just a definition of insanity, because that's what the game really felt like. And it was just a complete psychological horror game and just a 100% walking simulator. There was no survival horror, not a lot of interesting segments, just like a walking simulator, basically. I don't got nothing against the game for that, because like I'm into that type of stuff, but Layers of Fear 2 is a completely different experience. Layers of Fear 2 is um I like this is probably gonna be like the most tragic game I review on this channel, because not only did Layers of Fear 2 have the potential to be better than Layers of Fear 1, but Layers of Fear 2 probably could have been one of the best horror games ever made. Bloober Team was so close. They were like this close to actually making this one of the best horror games ever made, because this is a game that had a bunch of potential. I'd say this game had like a whole lot of potential, and like it came close. Okay, this game came extremely close to actually being a really good game, a really good horror game, that is. Alas, Layers of Fear 2 unfortunately does have a lot of problems, and these problems are very critical to the game, and it just ends up really hurting itself. Like, the game just ends up hurting itself because, like, the game is good, okay? The game is good, but the game also struggles and messes up and fails in some very important aspects. Aspects that were required by the game to actually be good in those aspects, and the game just fails in those aspects, and I'm like, God damn it! This could have been an amazing game. So let's talk about the actual gameplay first before we actually get into anything. Now, Layers of Fear 2, unlike the first game was just a spooky little short adventure, but Layers of Fear 2 is a game that will actually take you on a full-length journey. One thing that I actually can like about this is probably one of the most adventurous horror games you will ever play. This game really does take you on a journey. It is not even close to being just another walking simulator like Layers of Fear 1, or even Observer for that matter. Although Observer was a pretty exciting game itself, this game is one of the most adventurous horror games I have ever played in my whole life, and I doubt I will play another game like it. Or maybe I'm speaking too soon, I don't know, but like still though, this game really does take you on a journey. The game takes place on a ship, but trust me when I say this game will put you in so many different environments and so many different places, and that's what makes it so adventurous. And this also makes it a really good walking simulator as well, because at the end of the day, Layers of Fear 2 is a walking simulator. It's just got more going for it. A lot more going for it. I'm gonna explain that right now, but like I'm just saying, like the environments that this game puts you in, they are so amazing. The environments that this game just puts you in, they are completely fantastic. And like I said, the game really does just take you on such a fun roller coaster ride. I'll admit, although this game does have problems, I enjoyed myself with this game. I had a very fun time with this game. So like I had a good time with this game, and I'm hoping you guys did too, because like here's the thing. The gameplay of Layers of Fear 2 is good. It's just everything else that's bad, unfortunately. But like I said, like it's just the environments that this game puts you in, they are so cool, and like you actually want to explore them, because not only that, but this game is also so immersive. This game does a fantastic job at literally taking you out of your seat, and like you feel like you've actually been transported to this world. And the fact that it transports you to all these different locations in the game, it just makes exploring so much fun. Now, another thing about the gameplay is this game keeps you on your toes 100% of the time. Now, yes, as you will be exploring like all the areas and locations that this game puts you in, not only will you be exploring, but you will also be always doing something. The player always has something to do in this game, whether it's a puzzle or just something that you got to interact with. And this game is a lot more interactive than the first Layers of Fear. I will say that right now. This game is very, very interactive. You'll be doing things like climbing, opening you'll be doing things like climbing up ladders. There's a little bit of platforming involved, but like you'll be doing things like climbing up ladders, operating levers, and yeah, like you'll just be interacting with a lot of things to actually make progression in the game. And I like that. I like how the game is constantly, keeping the player on their toes. There's not a minute in this game where the player is just like aimlessly exploring like in the first Layers of Fear. The game will keep you busy. You'll be doing things like exploring, solving puzzles, and just solving objectives, because there is a difference between objectives and puzzles, and this game has both of them. You'll be doing things like finding items to like put inside of to make progression and stuff like that. Very similar to Outlast in a way. Like the game has objectives and puzzles all at the same time. And speaking of puzzles, I'm very happy to confirm that the puzzles in Layers of Fear 2 are a lot more better than the ones in Layers of Fear 1. I mean, the ones in here, they at least they're more creative and like slightly more challenging. I mean, they're still pretty easy to figure out, but like at least they're more clever. So the game has got some great puzzles, and the game does have some really good objective solving, and like it never feels repetitive. The game has different objectives and different types of puzzles that the player will need to solve, and this is what you'll be doing most of the time. You will be doing things like exploring the many areas and locations that the game puts you in, solving objectives, and solving the puzzles. Another great thing that makes a comeback from the first Layers of Fear are collectibles, and of course you got your notes, like to shed some light on the story, and we'll talk about the story in a minute. But yeah, and another thing I really like is like the fact that the game is just so different from the first one, and like how the game keeps you busy. This is an adventure game at its most. And furthermore, like the game does have actually some chase scenes, and this is new. Okay, this is something new. The game does have some chase scenes where you will be chased by this monster that looks very much like the Dream Eater from Observer. I'm not sure if Bloober Team actually just got lazy in that aspect, like decided to not even make a new looking monster for like the chasing sequences of this game. But yeah, there actually are some chasing sequences. And speaking of actual sequences, not only does this game keep you busy 100% of the time, but there are some really, really fun sequences in this game. Some honorable mentions is like there's like one part of the game where like you're inside this rocket ship and you're like dodging asteroids and shit. Really trippy stuff. And the game even has a boss fight. There is like this like skeleton monster or whatever. And like you gotta like dodge his fire attacks. Like he shoots fire at you. I mean, it's a little cliche. I mean, it's nothing we've like, it's something we've already seen before, but like it works in this game. Like this game just has a lot of fun segments, a lot of fun sections in the game. Just all sorts of fun stuff. Like the game has a lot of fun sections and a lot of fun scenes and a lot of fun moments. So that really like just makes the gameplay all the more fun, because not only is the base gameplay fun, especially if you are a fan of this type of gameplay, but like those segments alone are just great. And not only that, but I like how Blooper Team actually made this a combination of survival horror, and it's still got that psychological horror. So not only will Layers of Fear 2 please fans of the first game and fans of psychological horror, but now fans of survival horror can enjoy the Layers of Fear franchise, because this game, the gameplay, it combines both. And in terms of the scare factor, this game has got some really trippy scenes. Like besides the really fun segments, I'd say at like maybe around the last chapter, this game had some really really trippy scenes. Like there are some scenes in this game that are both disturbing. Sometimes it looks like a freaking drug trip, and there are just some like really really freaky scenes in this game. They will get under your skin. I mean, it's nothing to write home about. In my personal opinion, I'd say Layers of Fear 2 is mostly a action adventure game with horror elements, because the game, unfortunately, this is one of the game's problems, by the way. The game was just not very scary in a lot of segments, unfortunately. Especially, like, one thing about the first Layers of Fear is, like, the whole world morphing around you thing. That's what made Layers of Fear 1 so unique, because it had its own little thing going for it. The scares in Layers of Fear 2, like, it's got more intense scares, and not just the chase sequences. Like, there's just, like, the scares in this game, they're just a lot more, like, in your face. I mean, they're not jump scares, although the game does have plenty of those. Jump scares do make a return. They're not as bad as the ones in Layers of Fear 1. The game does have jump scares, but, like, I'm, like, just, like, the intensity of the other scares, they're really in your face. Like, they're, like, super loud and, like, super disturb. At least the game has disturbing moments. I mean, because, like, if it didn't have that, I would say Layers of Fear 2 is barely even a horror game. But like the game does have some pretty freaky and disturbing moments. I mean, it's not pure insanity like the first game, but it does have some pretty freaky scenes that will please horror fans. I mean, if you're someone who's expecting like complete horror like Visage or Outlast or Amnesia type horror, you're not going to find any of that here. Hell no. Layers of Fear's 2 scares, like the scares for Layers of Fear 2, they're a lot more fun. They're more like fun type scares. They're more fun and more intense. They're not like trippy and like insanity type like in Layers of Fear 1. But yeah, so far the gameplay for this game, it's great, and like it really adds to the point of where I said that the game really just takes you on a journey. This game is one fun ride. This is a fun horror game. It's probably one of the most fun horror games ever made because the gameplay is fun, the objectives are fun, and the exploration is fun. Like, if you're someone who doesn't like walking sims, try this game out, and I am willing to bet actual money that you will like the gameplay for this game because it's just so much fun. Because, like, the fact that the game keeps things new by transporting you to all these like locations and all these areas and sections of the game. The areas and sections of this game are also really, really good. They look good, and it's fun to explore them as well. The game also has a really good atmosphere as well, as I might add. So yeah, Layers of Fear 2, it's good in these aspects, and like for what it is, I'd say Layers of Fear 2 is just a fun adventure type horror game. It's not just like it's not like a 100% horror game. It's more of like just an action type horror game. It's more like that. Now, one thing that this game just had to fuck up on is the story. The story for this game is dog shit. And I'm just sitting here thinking, Blooper Team, what the fuck have you done? Because the fact that Layers of Fear 1 and Observer's stories were so much better, and Layers of Fear 1 story, like, yeah, it was a teeny bit cliche, but at least we understood what we were seeing, and it was dark and depressing, and it had its own thing going for it. And Observer was great too. Observer had a great story and great gameplay, but Layers of Fear 2, the story, dude, I have been on actual drug trips, and even they made more sense than this game's fucking story. The narrative, everything is just really cliche and really cryptic. And even for people who like stuff like that, like cryptic stories and shit, like it's just fucking stupid. I mark my words, if I called a Blooper Team right now and asked them what this story was supposed to be, I bet they would say something like, hey, you gotta figure it out yourself, or the story can be whatever you want it to be. But they're just saying that because I bet even Blooper Team doesn't know what the hell they made. I mean, just because the guy from Candyman is in here, that doesn't mean anything. The story for this game is garbage, okay? I'm sorry, but the story sucks. It's confusing, it's dumb, and it doesn't make any sense. And as a movie fan as well, as someone who really enjoys stories in both movies and video games, I hated this game. I hated the story so much. I mean, the gameplay was fun, yes. If you want a fun horror game, listen closely. If you guys want a really fun horror game, pick up Layers of Fear 2. You will enjoy it just because of that. But if you also want a good story, then that's where you're unfortunately going to be disappointed, like myself, because I love the first Layers of Fear so much. I love the gameplay and I love the story. This game, I'll admit, I had a fun time with this game. This was probably the most fun I've ever had in an actual horror game, so I loved the game just because of that. But the story, it's so bad. It puts really bad taste in your mouth, too. And also the soundtrack. The soundtrack for this game is absolutely magnificent. Blooper Team never fucks up on their soundtracks. I will give them that. The soundtrack in this game, the music in this game, some of it is just hauntingly beautiful. Others, it's just creepy. And other times, it's just really dark and ambient like in the first game. So the soundtrack is simply amazing. In terms of graphics, the game looks, I mean, it's decent. It's a lot like the first game. I mean, it's nothing like the Medium or Observer System Redux, but the graphics, I mean, they're decent for a game of its nature and a game that came out during its time. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, if you guys want to hear a little bit of the soundtrack, I'm not sure if this is copyrighted. I'm not going to risk it. Fuck it. Just look up the soundtrack. I'm not going to risk getting copyrighted. I put way too much work into this video. But anyways, guys, yeah, Layers of Fear 2, It was a decent game. I mean, it also lacked in a lot of scares, though. I mean, just because the game had freaky moments, the game just didn't have a lot of scares. I mean, yeah, it had a couple of jump scares here and there, and like the game had some disturbing imagery. You know, it's got that good shit, but it's just the game was lacking in actual good scares. I would go as far to say that Layers of Fear 2 is barely even an actual horror game. Layers of Fear 2 is an adventure game, a spooky adventure game, with some minor horror elements that may or may not appease you. It all depends on what your style is. But anyways, guys, thank you so very much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Layers of Fear 2, it's a fun-ass game. This game will take you on an unforgettable ride, a fun ride, and an unforgettable journey. I hope you enjoy it just because of that. The story may be garbage, but I mean, if you know the story for this game, like, let me know, because, like, I'm sure the story was good. I just don't fucking understand it. It really confused me. I was really confused. Like, when I finished this game, I was like, what the fuck was that? What the hell did I just play? What the hell was that? I had no idea what the hell was going on half the time. Even the characters, like, they had some really good dialogue, but I don't even know which story they're involved in, so I can't even enjoy the characters. But yeah, guys, if anyone knows the story, leave it down or make a video yourself. You'd be helping the community out a lot, especially me, because I want to know what's the story for this game. I want to understand it because, like, I'm sure it's good. I'm sure it's just as dark as the first one. Like, you can tell in some segments that the story's probably really good. Coupled with the soundtrack and everything else, I'm sure the story's good. I just don't know what the fuck is going on. I'm really confused. But yeah, guys, anyways, thank you so very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know, what do you think about Layers of Fear 2? I give this game a 7 out of 10. I mean, if the story was understandable, I would have probably gave it a higher score like the first game. I gave the first game like an 8. So yeah, I mean, just yeah. But anyways, guys, if you like fun horror games, if you want to have a fun ride with a horror game, Layers of Fear 2, fantastic place to start. Amazing gameplay, amazing soundtrack, decent scares, and some really fun segments. Like, this game has like some incredibly fun sections that I know you guys will like. The game has so many fun moments. So pick up the game just because of that if you want to. Just pretend the story doesn't exist. Or if you know the story, like, you know, enjoy it even more, you know? Just, yeah. But anyways, guys, once again, thank you so very much for watching. More reviews coming very soon. This was Mr. Rage 22 signing off. Bye, guys, and have a good one.